Baseball Books and Banter with me, your host, Nicole. Still not sponsored by Diet Coke, even though I'm wearing my love on my sleeve, literally. That's okay. I still love you, Diet Coke. Come hit me up. Tamara and I at work are constantly talking about our midday Diet Coke runs because sometimes you just need that little fountain Diet Coke to get you through the day. Her Diet Coke choices from Circle K, McDonald's, little ticked off right now because they've raised their prices. It used to be $1.25 for a soda, a large Diet Coke, but now it is up to $1.92 after tax, and I don't like it. So I might be hitting back to 7-Eleven because they also have crushed ice. Just pro tip. So I haven't been on in a while. Hi again. I've missed you. Today's guest is Erica Miner, who is a fellow Level Best Books author. And I love saying it like that because even though my book's not out yet, I'm a Level Best author and they are some of my favorite people. A lot of their authors are my favorite people. Their editors, their owners, everything. So shout out to Level Best Books. I've interviewed some of their authors before, but this is the first time I can say at the same time, oh, we're colleagues. We work with the same publisher. That's so exciting. So that's kind of fun. She writes a series about opera mysteries, which obviously, as you know, I'm a former ballet dancer. I love the theater. So I'm really excited to get into that. She's lived all over. She's worked a lot in Boston, college, went to the BSO, went to Tanglewood. We talk a little bit about that. One thing that I didn't get to talk about with her, because we have the short interviews, is one of the baritones of one of the operas that she worked with called her the Agatha Christie of the opera world. And I was like, whoa, that's a pretty high compliment. So shout out to that. But before we get into that, as always, we have to talk about the things I'm obsessed with this week. I've already recorded this once. It didn't save because Lord knows the computer sometimes hates me, which is awesome. So the first thing I'm obsessed with is my Diet Coke. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. It's got bats. It's got a Diet Coke, a ghost holding a cat and a Diet Coke. And for those that know, I'm obviously obsessed with Diet Coke, and I'm also obsessed with cats. This was from an Etsy shop called Bison Beazer. I think it's Beazer, made in America. And they have a whole bunch of different designs. This can come on anything, a shirt, a t-shirt. A t-shirt and a shirt are the same thing, Nicole, get it together. And obviously a sweatshirt because we're in the midst of a nor'easter today. Not the good kind, which involves snow, the bad kind, which involves wind and rain. So it's definitely cozy. It was perfect for running errands today. I'm probably going to live in this until after Halloween, maybe even into November and December. Who knows? Ghosts are a year-round thing. The other thing I'm obsessed with, speaking of Etsy, well, this actually goes back. So I just recently joined Threads. I was on Twitter, left Twitter, joined Blue Sky. Love Blue Sky for all my TV, live streaming, all my news stuff. I love that. But I joined Threads because I heard it was a good book environment for authors, readers, writers, and I'm really enjoying it so far for that. And it's also a great place to meet other women who like sports, whether that be authors, people who make baseball TikToks, baseball content, go to games, just want to talk ball, which is really fun. So I'm hoping I can find that same group for basketball and hockey too, which hockey I'm starting to get a little hint of. But through that, Rosie Pease, who's been on the show, she follows a whole bunch of people, and obviously with her baseball romances, a lot of them are baseball people. So I'm kind of piggybacking on a lot of people that she's followed. And I found Seventh Inning Candles, which is obviously a candle maker. And she makes baseball themed candles. So of course I was like, yeah, right up my alley. So I went and looked at her Etsy shop and I found one called Frozen Ropes, which are very hard hit balls. And I hope, don't correct me, I don't care. That's what I think they are. And it's salt, air, and peppermint. So I'm really intrigued to see how that's going to smell. And it was her first order in Massachusetts, which is super fun because it should go to the writer of the Ballpark Mystery series. I mean, hello, that's kind of my jam. I also bought a room spray that I'm going to use in my car because I have a new car and I want to keep it fresh and tidy and not smelling like French fries that I get every week. So check out Seventh Inning Candles. Also follow her on Threads because she's been talking a lot about the games. Girls Talk Sports is another one that I follow who talks a lot about baseball. And the reason I'm wearing a different outfit than the interview with Erica today is because I wanted to wait and record this till after game 5 of the ALDS between Chicago and the Brewers, Milwaukee, because then we have our 4 ALCS and LCS play teams, which include the Los Angeles Dodgers, thumbs down. They won too much. I feel like as a Patriots fan, I can say that. No more. Also, the Seattle Mariners. Why am I skipping things? Seattle Mariners, Milwaukee Brewers, we're going to play the Dodgers, and then the Toronto Blue Jays. Because the Red Sox lost to the Yankees, which is a bummer. But then the Yankees lost to the Blue Jays, which is a 2 thumbs up. And also Vladdy Jr. and David Ortiz did the Yankees lose right in front of Derek Jeter and A-Rod's face, which I love that, and more, please, because I love David Ortiz, obviously. One of the cats in the books is named Poppy because he just seems like a big giant teddy bear, and I just want to hug him and have fun with him and have him laugh because it's infectious, his laugh, unless you're A-Rod and Derek Jeter, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of the playoff picture. I'm leaning towards a Seattle-Milwaukee World Series because neither of them have won. I love Cal Raleigh, the big dumper in Seattle. The Seattle team feels light and fun. I love a light and fun team. But then again, the Blue Jays also feel light and fun. Would I be sad if the Blue Jays make the World Series? No. The only team that I'd be really sad about making the World Series is the Dodgers because half the team is former Red Sox players. So that's like, bummer, could have been us, blah, blah, blah. But also they're just so, although I do love Shohei Ohtani, let's not get crazy. I would love him to win, but I don't want the Dodgers to win. They just seem so like mechanical and like, that's no fun to watch. I love when the team has like personality and life. I don't know if that's the Savannah Bananas effect, but either way, we want them to come in. But that's kind of the other thing sports wise. The Bruins have started. They're 3-0. It's kind of bananas and I'm into it. The Celtics are playing preseason, so we're this much closer to basketball season. So there's a lot getting ready, and the Patriots are playing today. So I got that to watch. And then tonight I'm doing a nighttime event where I get to MC for a bunch of mystery authors doing some readings down in Plymouth with chocolate, which is my favorite. So things are going well. So if tonight's event works well, we might do some more stuff on the South Shore, do some readings, following Gabi's lead in Maine, who does a lot of noir at the bars. I'm not a noir author, so I called it noir-ish at the bar because we're having a lot of cozy authors read, and I don't want people to expect, deep, dark, gritty readings, but we'll see what goes. We'll see what happens. It's the middle of a nor'easter. What else are you going to do? Just sit inside, eat chocolate, drink wine, and watch people read mystery books and maybe win some prizes. But that's neither here nor there because you're probably listening to this after that event. So if it doesn't go well, you'll never hear about it again. If it goes well, you might hear more. But regardless, that's a long intro. And I really want you to get to the talk with Erica because she has a fascinating career, fascinating writing life and kind of vibe. And we could have talked for hours. I really should start paying for Zoom, but whatever. It is what it is, guys. I'm trying to get a bathroom fixed and a deck fixed. I don't have time to pay for Zoom. But anyway, so enjoy, Erica. Well, welcome, Erica, to Baseball Books and Banter. We are new. Well, you're not new, but I'm a new level bestie. And I'm excited to be a level bestie, level best books. My books are not out yet with them, but they're coming. And you write the opera mysteries, yes. But I'll let you explain a little bit about what you do to the audience.
Well, first of all, I just want to say what a pleasure it is to meet you. And I've been with Level Best for a few years. I have 3 books out. Nice. And 3 years in a row. So it's been quite a busy time. I used to be a violinist at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. So while I was there, and I was there for 21 years, so I pretty much saw it all. And it was the time of Pavarotti and Domingo and all these really, truly great stars. So I have a lot of stories to tell about them. But while I was there, after a while, I was started out, I was in my 20s and very kind of naive, and I didn't know about the backstage goings on. And as time went by, I started to observe that people tended to conflict with each other, both on the stage, behind the stage, even in the orchestra pit,
Wow.
and some nefarious things going on. I have stories to tell. And so I thought, had been writing. I've actually been writing since I was in grade school. So I thought, this could really escalate into murder. And I thought, why not write a murder mystery that takes place at the Met? So that's how it started out. Julia Kogan is kind of my alter ego, a young, naive violinist who starts to learn very quickly. When it's her opening night, she's very excited, the most prestigious opera house in the world. And suddenly she finds herself involved in a murder investigation.
As it happens, of course.
As it happens. And she being a very sincere kind of person, and she believes in justice, and she sees things going on, like someone accused that she knows can't be the murderer, and so she can't help herself. She gets involved, and sooner or later, she ends up as a target of the killer.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what happens at the Metropolitan Opera, and that was Aria for Murder, the first book in the series. I didn't know it was a series then until one
Right.
of my readers said, okay,
What's
so
next?
how about the sequel?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and he said, yeah, you should write a sequel and should be at Santa Fe Opera. This is a guy who's a real opera aficionado. And I knew a lot about Santa Fe, but I hadn't ever been there, although a lot of players from the Met go there in the summer
Oh,
because they just
interesting.
can't get enough opera.
Yeah, I guess.
And because it's a beautiful place, the opera house is stunning, and you've got an opera house in the middle of the desert, I mean, who would think it possible?
Right.
Also, the desert is a very mysterious place. This opera house is placed between two mysterious mountain ranges,
Oh,
one of which is called the Blood of Christ.
that's
So already you've got, plus Santa Fe is the most ghostly city in the entire country. So I
wow.
thought, well, Julia is going to be very afraid of ghosts, and there'll be some encounters. And the next thing you know, another murder investigation, boom.
I love,
So,
I love, do you find when you're explaining to like people are like, what are your books about? And you explain the first one, you're like, da 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 da. And you're like, and in the next book, the same thing happens. There's another dead body and there's another investigation. I find sometimes I feel like people are kind of like, well, what? But then I'm like, you guys watch Bones, you watch Murder She Wrote, you watch all these shows. I mean, it's the same thing. There's a murder of the week, like kind of thing. So it's just, I find that funny, like how you just described the second one is, oh, she goes to Santa Fe to play in the opera house. And there's a dead body. Of course there is.
or more.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went out to Santa Fe, and I knew somebody who was very high in the hierarchy there who got me access to the entire campus.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. It's gorgeous, and it's also very mysterious. And he's like, here's a place a murder could happen, so that really helped a lot. So I got that book done. And while I was there, a friend of mine from San Francisco Opera happened to be in town, and he said, oh,
Do
you're
one,
right.
do one for us. Do one for us.
Come to San Francisco. And I actually already had a history with that opera company, having relatives and friends who worked there, and I had been there many times. So I thought, okay, why not? It turned out to be the creepiest opera house. I mean, it had ghosts and
That's
lots
good
of
to say because it's probably really old, right?
really old, much older than the other two, than the
Yeah.
Met. So yeah. And they gave me a tour from top to bottom, and believe me, that basement evoked all kinds of possibilities of bodies showing up. So yeah, so that's how it ended up as the series so far, and it's been so much fun. And poor Julia, always getting in trouble. She has a penchant for that, but you
Well,
gotta let
I was going to say it wouldn't be a book series if she didn't kind of get involved
yeah.
every time. I mean, it would be boring if she was just like, I'll let the police do the work. Yep, no worries. I won't. If I get information, I'll give it to you right away. Like, no, no. I mean, that's, I think, the plight of a cozy mystery heroine is like she's inherently curious. And that's what makes them likable because I think we're all a little bit curious when things happen. Yeah. So you say it's three now. So the third one just came out last October, so a year ago, right?
Yeah, basically.
Do you have plans for more, or is it kind of a holding pattern right now so you can find a really cool opera house to go to?
Oh, there's no
Oh,
lack of cool opera houses. I mean, anywhere from Paris
I was
to,
just gonna say, oh God, can you Paris? That'd be so good.
yeah, that would be pretty great. Although I'm living in Seattle now and I have a great relationship with them, so maybe it could be Seattle. I've been talking to Sean, our publisher, about possibilities. And right now I'm in a holding pattern because 3 books in 3 years is,
That's a lot.
oh, no problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
much more than I thought it would be. So, yeah, I'm trying to decide whether it'll be book 4 or whether it'll be something entirely different, or maybe true crime, or maybe
Oh
historical, because, opera goes back 400 years. So there's
gosh.
any number of possibilities. So it's really exciting to think about. But I think that there are certain characters in the third book, in Overture to Murder, who are already telling me what kind of trouble they want to get Julia in. So you never know.
You never know. Because you do have kind of the eclectic background in writing. You were a violinist, like you said, for many, many years at many different places, which for those that know me, I'm in outside of Boston, and you have a very good connection with Boston at the Boston Symphony Orchestra and Tanglewood. And I was like, I know all those names, the New England Conservatory, all that good stuff. I've
Well,
never been to Tanglewood though.
you must go immediately as soon as next summer comes
I
along.
hear it's so beautiful, and I'm a big Boston Pops girly. I'm a big Keith Lockhart, groupie. So I love seeing anything he does because I'm like, oh my God, it's Keith Lockhart, like big nerd. Um, he's the director of the Pops for anybody that's curious. But then you kind of transitioned into writing where you screenplays. You had your first book was a book of journal entries.
Oh, actually, it was a novel based on my journal entries.
Okay. And how did that process kind of
It,
get started for you?
it was interesting because, well, going back a little bit, first of all, I spent many wonderful years in Boston. I can't tell you how my love for Boston is limitless, and also for the Red Sox.
Yeah. Oh, because I was going to ask you, I didn't want to like jump into that right away, but how did last night go for you as in Seattle playing Detroit in 15 innings? I don't know if you watched any of it. I listened to all of it.
I didn't, but I watched one of the previous games, and
Okay.
I'm not okay, Seattle. I'm not a Mariners fan because my heart still belongs to Boston. Although I had to be a Yankees fan because I lived like a stone's throw from
Yeah.
Yankee
The old
Stadium.
Yankee Stadium. Yeah.
But when I was in Boston, I was young and very naive, and everything was wonderful. And it
Yeah.
was, the heyday of Yastrzemski. I mean,
Um,
what more can you ask? So, yeah, Boston will always be. In fact, oh, I wanted to tell you, here's something you'll identify with. I lived in an apartment in Kenmore Square
oh my God.
where you could see into Fenway Park from
The
the roof.
green.
So
A
yeah, it
dream.
was totally everybody was
And
into
I'm
it.
sure now, if you looked at that, probably that same building, if it's still there, the apartment's probably like $1 million, at least.
The
Um,
last time I was in Boston, the building was still there. I think
yeah,
it'll always be there. But
yeah.
yeah,
And now
trust
they're
me.
building seats everywhere. But yeah, I definitely can't afford it now, probably. Definitely when you were in college during the Yastrzemski years, I'm sure it was a lot more reasonable.
It was reasonable, although I was a
It's still
student
Boston.
living on a shoestring. I had 2 roommates, the whole deal.
Yeah.
But when I transitioned to New York, and at that point I was married and all of that fun stuff, uh, I probably would still be in Boston if it hadn't been for that. A husband who was a aspiring conductor. We had to be in New
Oh.
York, and the next thing I knew, I was at the Met. So um, there were a lot of unexpected things happening.
And what
So
took you out to Seattle?
um, my daughter,
Okay, fair enough.
all of the young people from New York and New Jersey came here to Seattle, and
Wow.
so my daughter was one of them. And eventually, I followed. You follow the kid and the grandkids,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say there's got to be a grandkid involved too, right?
all those. So I'm happy to be here, but I will always be a Bo Sox fan.
All
So
right, we like that. We like to hear that. I know Peggy Shaw is listening. Peggy Shaw works concessions at Fenway Park as her. She's been doing it since 1984. She's the best, and she's also from Dorchester, so she has the wicked Boston accent, which I love, because I don't have it unless I get angry. For some reason, it comes out. I've been here 15 years, and when I get angry, the Boston comes out. But she's full on Peggy Paca, dropping R's left and right, and we love her for it. So shout out to Peggy because I know she listens because she's a loyal friend and fan. So going back to what we were talking about, taking the journal entries and making them into a novel. How did that process work for you?
Well, what happened was the reason I left the Met was that I was in a car accident and I injured my hands, and ultimately I had to stop playing. And since I had always written, I decided that it seemed pretty obvious that that would be my creative outlet, my next career. So I started writing, and my husband and I moved to San Diego, and I was commuting to LA to work with a script consultant teacher. And I said to him one day, I was working on my screenplays, and I said, I have this idea for a novel. What do you think? And he said, well, tell me about it. And I said, well, I thought of a name. It's called Travels with My Lovers, and it's about a violinist who goes to Italy and gets into lots of trouble.
Oh,
I said, it sounds great, do it. So I started writing, and I had myself, I had been to Europe and gotten into a lot of trouble. So writing about it, I just took my journals and I was like, okay, how can I make this into fiction?
mm-hmm.
But nobody really knows what's fiction and what's
Yeah,
not.
I was reading that on your website. You're like, it's up to you to try to decide what's fiction and what's not.
It's fun. But also my second novel, which is called Forever Friends, is based on journals that I went backwards. So these are journals that I kept in high school.
Oh,
See, I
wow.
never stopped writing, even though I
Yeah.
was playing violin all the time. And so there was another journal-based novel. So those first two were in that category. But then once I was at the Met and, I saw people jumping off balconies and stuff like that, I thought, no, I have to write one.
Yeah, I can imagine and I love the idea because, like you said, a lot of people they think the arts is this very, I don't want to say hippie because it's not, but they think it's a very like everybody's artistic expression. They don't know that there's I think normal people don't know there's an underbelly and politics involved. I mean, I did ballet for 20 years, not professionally, but even in college ballet, there's rivalries, there's tension, there's all that. So I think like you said, it's rife and ripe for mystery writing and a lot of times, especially I feel like with the way you have it, where the opera, you go to different locations, it infuses it with a little bit more character. So you're not getting, oh, she's at the Met again, and the tenor fell through a trap door again, like whatever. You know what I mean? Like I think that by ending making it kind of a traveling,
Yeah.
because they are all, even though they're the same, they're all opera. Each place is different, I'm sure.
Each is different, and each place there are different operas being performed,
Right.
and these operas, I mean, art imitates life and vice versa. There's plenty of murder and mayhem going on stage, and I wanted to give an insider's view for the reader to know what goes on behind the scenes and the conflict. You get that many egos together. I mean, the orchestra alone, you've got 100 neurotic musicians thrown together in a hole in the ground with no light and no air 7 days a week.
Oh
I mean, sooner or later, someone's going to want to kill someone.
that they don't get the appreciation the people on stage get sometimes. I mean, they get the applause at the end, but people are kind of just like, oh yeah, it's the orchestra, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
And yet the competition there is
yeah,
fierce. People, let's put it this way. I love writers. I've had such a wonderful experience working with writers. Everybody wants success for everybody else. It doesn't go that way with musicians.
yeah,
Musicians want everybody else to mess up.
right. Because then
It,
they'll get the next.
they all think that they're the best, and so they want you to mess up, and they're happy when you do, and they're not happy when you don't, and this leads to all kinds of, and you spend all this time together, you see more of these people than you see of your own families, So, eventually the resentments are going to pile up and just come out in terrible ways, usually. And then you have these divas,
Yes.
these opera singers whose egos are all conflicting with the others. And you see this especially in Prelude to Murder, the second
Okay.
book that takes place at Santa Fe. This diva is someone you just want to strangle her.
You want to kill her, right?
Like she can't stop shrieking at everybody because she thinks she is the center of the world.
Yeah.
We've all seen people like that. So it's very universal when you think about it. And these operas have some pretty violent murders going on in them. So it was so much fun to decide, okay, how can I reflect what's going on stage?
Okay.
What happens either in the orchestra pit or in the house?
So do you pick the opera first and then kind of find the mystery and the murder and everything to go along with the opera they're performing, or does it kind of just organically come to you while you're drafting?
It's kind of both.
Okay.
In the first novel, An Aria for Murder, since I knew the place so well, and I already had an idea I always feel like in a mystery, you really need to know who the villain is
Oh yeah.
right from the beginning, and you need to know who the victims are going to be.
Mhm.
Once I decided that, then I knew I had to find an opera that I could coincide all of that nefarious goings on with what's going on stage. And it turned out just right. And it happened also in the climax, where there's another opera where it's going on at the same time as another, um, shall we say, attempted murder. So it's fun to find these operas and decide, am I going to, exactly what you said, am I going to tailor the story to the opera or vice versa? And I found kind of a happy medium between the two. So, and it was a
It's
lot of fun.
funny that you say that because I think with my first book it was the same. I knew who the villain was, I knew who the killer or the victims were, but with the second book, I mean, obviously the location stayed the same with the ballpark, but I kind of made it a little bit looser on who the victim was, like who the killer was. I knew the victim from the jump. I knew who was going to be killed, but in the writing and making these things, it kind of changed. But in the first book, the killer was always the killer. And I know people who've read it say, I did not see that comment. I'm like, which is funny because I saw it from the beginning. I knew it was that person. Obviously, I wrote it. So no spoilers because I wrote it. But yeah, I think that's interesting how, and I don't, with the first book, how the writing changes between first, second, and third. Did you find your way of drafting changing as you kind of got more, because these books came out after your journal books, right? The journal novels.
A lot later.
Yeah, so you've already had kind of that experience in writing, but did you find your writing changed between the three books on how you drafted, how you kind of moved the story along?
Oh, absolutely, because it's like being a musician. You like to think that your playing is always getting better.
Right.
And so I like to feel that my writing is always getting better as well. And so I found that my approach, the more I learned about writing and about mystery, and the more I read books by Agatha Christie and other great, great writers, I started amending the way I worked and drafting in a much different way. I'm definitely not a pantser. I'm a planner. I have to have an outline.
Wow.
I have to have that blueprint before I can write a word of the actual book. So while I'm doing that, that definitely evolved as I was going on. That kind of drafting this blueprint for myself, and of course it changed
Oh,
as the writing went along.
yeah.
But I think that's really important for me. Some people can just spontaneously throw it all down, and I could do that. But I think in a murder mystery, it's most important to have that blueprint in place, to know your ending, know your villains, and then everything else is
Fluid.
volatile and changing all the time. But
Yeah,
yes,
I'm no bueno with the planning. I'm a very poor planner just in life in general. So I do a lot of my drafting is kind of we I was at the main crime wave this past month and somebody called it book soup, that all the ideas are there and it's a matter of putting them in the right pot in the right order to get a healthy soup. And I was like, I love that, because that's a lot of times it's just stuff
Mhm.
until you kind of meld it all together. Because somebody said they like it better than hearing the first draft is word vomit, and I'm like, yeah, that's gross. So they're like, I call it word soup instead, and I was like, I like that better. It is winter, or almost winter. It's fall, whatever, and it is soup time, and it just was more descriptive and in a nice way. But yeah, I try to, when I start a book, I try to, I know the victim. The victim's always the victim. The one I'm writing now, I'm still kind of unclear on who the killer is. I'm kind of bobbing and weaving my way to the killer. I don't know. And I think with me, it's after you word soup it, I have to go back to the beginning, and then I have to write down in a notebook every day of what's going on in the book and kind of what's happening. So Julia Spencer Fleming, I went to a conference, and she said she writes 3 chapters and then creates the outline, and then writes another 3 chapters and then outlines that, so that she can at a glance see what's going on. And I was like, oh, that's a good way to do it.
These are all ways, I
Yeah,
think.
and I love learning about people's ways, because I know I have friends who do like 10-page outlines of their murder mystery, and I'm like, I when I signed in with Level Best, I was with a different publisher, and Verena Rose was the editor at the time, and she goes, all right, well, give me what the next 3 books in the series are going to be about. And I was like, girl, I just finished writing the 3rd book, like, I don't know. I was like, that's 3 books in the series, that's like 2030. I don't know what's happening. But it got me to sit down and write like a paragraph on what I think could happen. And I think it's nice to have that kind of framework that, like you said, can be a little volatile, can change, but it provides a direction, which is always nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, as I said, the characters are already telling me what they want to do
Yeah.
next. But I'm
Characters are so
afraid,
annoying.
thank you. But I'm afraid to write it down, because then I'll get sucked into it, and next thing I know, I'm going to be writing the thing.
Yeah.
And right now it's the midst of lecture season, so it's not the right time for me to be writing. I have to somehow resist that temptation. But I think, as far as drafting goes, I think the thing that changes for me the most in that process are the other characters.
Mm.
So, for instance, in R for Murder, I had at least 3 different red herrings.
Yep.
There's going to be somebody that you're convinced is the murderer, but I kept changing that person and the gender of that person as well. So even though I knew who the villain was and who the victims were, and of
Right.
course the protagonist, all of that other, if you want to call it soup, the sweet potatoes and the onions and all
Yeah.
that, that all changed. So, but thank you for that. I really like that. Gives me something to think
I
about.
do
This,
too. I trying to remember. I think her name was Shay. She's writing a feminine rage book, and I was like, I want it right now. I'm full of feminist rage. I need it. So send it to me when you're done writing it, Shay. She also writes historical romance from like it was like prehistoric, not prehistoric. That's too old.
media,
Medieval times, maybe. I don't know. It was a long time ago times, and I was like, that's that's quite the range, Shay. But
a lot of research for that.
yeah, she said, I think it was her like schooling. She did study history, that kind of history and stuff. But yeah, I love historical mystery. I love historical mystery. I don't think I can write it because I know my limits. But I am working on a short story based here in Boston, because I found out that during World War I, they were allowing women to work at the Boston Navy Yard doing rope work.
Wow.
There was a rope, and I had no idea, like, just completely. And I wanted to tie it into well, actually the story started as a Babe Ruth story, like with a Babe Ruth story, and I was like, but I want a woman character, because hello. And so now I'm trying to weave that, but I don't think it's going to be a full book. It's going to definitely be a short story. So nobody steal that idea if you're listening.
No, but I think, even though my opera mysteries are contemporary,
Mm.
each opera house has its own history. And so the research that I did for that, for the history, like the history of the connection between the gold rush and the San Francisco Opera
Yeah.
House, I believe it's crazy wonderful, but I had so much fun learning about that.
I mean, I probably can read the book and find this out, and I should read the book because I'm already like, it's on my list. Because I see it at every conference I go to. That Level Best Springs book, and I'm like, this is right up my alley. I got to get it. Did the San Francisco Opera House have problems during the earthquake way
Oh
back?
yeah,
Okay.
I had to close it for a year and a half and completely redo
Okay.
it.
I
Re-
just read a bunch of mysteries that involved the San Francisco earthquake. So I was like, oh, I wonder. And some ghosts. I'll have to take a look.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
I do want to talk about, so how did you come to Level Best? Were these books published before? I think it said it was republished with Level Best, right?
What happened was the pandemic.
Mm.
So originally, this series was published by another publisher, and the first two were published, in all formats.
Yeah.
But the third one, the San Francisco one, never got to print
Mm.
because of who knows why. I mean, it's not only that, everybody was, um, you know, sheltered in place and people weren't printing. There was a
Yeah.
shortage of who knows what. But in any case, I decided I got some good advice. And there's a wonderful organization here called Washington Lawyers for the Arts.
Mm.
And they work with writers, musicians, artists, and they give you a free 30-minute consult
Oh, wow. Okay.
if you need advice. And I needed advice because all of my writer friends were saying, like in Sisters in Crime,
Yeah.
the local chapter, wonderful people here. And they said, get your rights back
Mhm.
and find another publisher. And I consulted with WLA, and they helped me draft a letter, getting my rights back from the original publisher. And in the meantime, since I couldn't go anywhere, I spent
Mm.
a lot of time online, not only taking writing courses, but subscribing to newsletters. And one of the newsletters offered a free consult with Harriet, who used to
Oh,
be
okay. Yep.
one of the publishers here. And lo and behold, we had this Zoom consult. We got on like a house on fire. She had lived in New York. She knew all about the Met. She was crazy for the idea and offered me a contract
Oh,
to do all three books. But she said there had to be, it had to be different, completely
yeah.
different titles, different covers, different plot points. All of these things had to be changed. So
Right.
that's why, still, even though they had originally been done, I had to redo them from top to bottom. And, three of them in 3 years turned out to be more of a huge job than I
Yeah.
thought it would be. But that's how I ended up with Level Best. And I've been having just a wonderful experience with them. And as you can see from the book covers, Sean has done an absolutely brilliant job of
Brilliant.
evoking enough about the opera, the music, and the murder kind of atmosphere in these covers that I'm delighted. So
That's so funny because I have the same story. The pandemic, my original publisher kind of fell apart. There's a whole drama with that, and I went through the Authors Guild and got advice about getting rights back. And so finally, they just decided to go under instead of whatever. So I got my rights back, and I met Verena, who was another former owner of the company, at the New England Crime Bake, which we have here every November. And her and I, Donna Ray Menard, who's also a Level Bestie, was like, talk to Verena. She's my roommate. Talk to her. She'll talk to you about your book. So her and I sat together at the Crime Bake and we talked. And that's when she was like, hey, send me like the next 3 books in the series. Because at the time they weren't giving me my rights back. And so I had book 3 through 6 or whatever. So she's like, send me what's going to be the next 3 after that. And they got the contract. So now that I have the rights back, I think Level Best is going to reissue the first 2 and then publish. And so next year will be my 3rd one going
that's good.
forward. But we'll see. I don't know. That's all out of my purview. Like, I don't know. So you should come to the Crime Bake if you love New England. I'm just saying, as committee member, this year is great, but next year we're gonna do some more fun stuff. So just if you're having November and you want to come see some leaves in glorious Dedham, Massachusetts. um, but hopefully I'll see you at Malice Domestic too at one of these events because yeah, this would be fun. But we are coming. We have about 10 minutes left, and because I don't pay for Zoom because I'm cheap and whatever. Do you have books that you would recommend for people to read? Either books that you've just finished, books you've always loved, or just just something you've been reading that you think people should check out?
Well, actually, speaking of medieval, I just finished writing, I should that's a Freudian slip, I
Yeah.
wish, reading Michael Crichton's Brilliant Timeline.
Okay. That's the new one?
No, that's actually from quite a while back. It takes place in medieval France, in France of the 15th century, um, in a very interesting part of France where there's a lot of castles, of course. And the type of violence, I mean, each, it was definitely a page turner, definitely edge of your seat kind of excitement, but also the research he must have done in order to, I mean, so authentically portray what life was like back then and, put all of these characters together. And of course, a lot of violence, a lot of it. I'm not a real
Yeah.
violent,
We're cozy authors for a reason.
yeah, graphic violence, but so exciting. And the writing is so,
Yeah.
so very brilliant. But, and also I'm married to a French guy, so I have a special interest in French
French.
and in French. And the way Crichton puts it all together is brilliant. And I can't recommend it enough. It's just everybody's next read, I would think.
Definitely put that on my list with stars. This is my favorite part of the podcast because it's when I make my TBR longer, which I don't need, obviously, but I also just picked up a book at the library. So, we just got books every, and there's football on today. So I probably won't even read as much as I want to, but I should also be writing. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's fall winter now. So this is the time we hunker down and get stuff done, hopefully. Where can people find you?
People can find me on my website, first of all, ericaminer.com, ERICAMINER, not the musical miner, the coal miner. And I have everything, all of the articles. I also am a journalist. So I write interviews and reviews of arts and music events, especially the opera and the symphony here. All of my articles are there, information about my books, where you can get my books pretty much everywhere, first of all, on the Level Best website and Amazon, Barnes and Noble, also a number of local bookstores that I have listed there where you can get my books. So, and all in all formats, yay, best, Level Best.
I know,
Uh,
they're so great.
you can find me there. And I've done a number of these podcasts and especially opera ones that I enjoy doing. And there's some coming up that I'm going to be posting also on Facebook. I'm a Facebook junkie. I'm there every day. And there's information about upcoming events. I just did one at Barnes and Noble in Seattle last weekend, which was very exciting. And the most exciting thing for me is always to meet people who are so fascinating. And I have so much fun with that. And of course, signing the books. But this bookstore is really a class act. After all was said and done, they were very happy with me because I kept asking for more.
Yeah. I mean, the picture on Facebook, people, I mean, there's piles of books next to you, just signing them and throwing them out at people.
That motivated me to stay through the entire 4 hours. But when I was done, they came and said, okay, we've got this many left and we want you to sign all of them to leave in the bookstore. And I'm like, so.
Was this your first Barnes and Noble experience?
No, actually, there are a number of Barnes and Noble. I live north of Seattle.
Okay.
So a Barnes and Noble north of Seattle, close to me, where I've done all 3 books there. But this was my first one in the actual Seattle, central Seattle.
I've found Barnes and Noble lately has been a lot more independent author friendly, which for I mean me and you and everybody else, because when I first published in 2019, they were not. And I think the pandemic kind of changed their thinking and the new ownership because now they're having a signing tomorrow with fantasy books. And the guy reached out to me and I was like, yeah, of course I want to do it. Of course. Yeah. Like after 2 years, I was like, yes, please. But I'm like, just buy the books from me because my publisher is not paying me, but Level Best will be much better. I have a feeling.
Definitely the upswing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. This is fun, and I'd like to talk more.
Yeah, we definitely will. We for sure.
I'm just looking for an opportunity to come back to Boston. So
okay.
I will.
You're invited anytime. I have a house on the Cape. If you want to rent it, it's fine.
Wow, that sounds like a dream. Wonderful.
See? Great. I'm definitely going to have her on again, especially if she writes some of those books that she was talking about. And I definitely would love to get a Seattle or yeah, a Seattle opera mystery, which is where she's at, or maybe come to Boston. The opera house is now used mainly for ballet, but as a ballet dancer, I'm cool with that. Like, throw a Giselle in there and I'm all about it. So definitely check her out if you see her online. If you're on the West Coast and in Seattle and war-torn Portland, Oregon, definitely go check out her books at the bookstore. On that note, things that are happening in my life. I've already talked about some of it. I did attend the Maine Crime Wave a couple weeks ago and had a fantastic time in Portland. It was 1,000 degrees, which is annoying because it was my birthday weekend, and for those that know, I hate the heat. So it was kind of a bummer. They had a special tour of the Maine Historical Society's Notorious exhibit, which you should check it out on the Maine Historical website. It kind of talks about like the true crime, how people got into the true crime pre-Dateline, pre-2020, back in the 1920s and the 1800s. And one of the things I became super obsessed with, I have the picture in my notes app because I love it so much, is Lawrence Dame, the crime reporter from the 20s. He's amazing. He looks like you would picture a 20s detective, which makes me feel like vindicated that that's how I described my detective, even though he's in the 2000s. But he had this incredible life where he was doing these reports, crime reports. Then he chucked it all. What did the historian say? He married a divorcee and then who had kids, and then he never mentioned them in his obituary. They were never mentioned again. He went exploring across South America. I mean, just like, I need that movie. That's all I'm saying. So, but there was also really cool stuff about how trials were described, how newspapers started to get really involved with everything, and is fascinating. But after that, they were doing a noir at the bar, which I did not attend to because Great British Bake Off was on, and the Red Sox were clinching that night. So I had to go home for that. Had to go home to the hotel. But I did enjoy a nice appetizer at the rooftop bar and wrote some words. So we're slowly but surely working on book 4. I'm still waiting for updates on books 1 and 2 and their reissue date. Book 3, I just sent the cover. Did I send the cover request, or I completed the cover request? So that's still on track for next September, as far as I know. So keep your eyes out, guys, for Foul Play at the Park. Book 4 is drafting. Doing a lot of stuff right now with Crime Bake and Sisters in Crime. We have the event tonight. Crime Bake is coming up in less than a month. So if you are interested, you should get to the crimebake.org website. We have a lot of cool master classes, a lot of cool panels this year. We also have a crime scene that you can investigate, and then Sunday morning all will be revealed, which I'm really excited about because it's actually the crime scene is going to be across from the Starbucks. So you can look at it as many times as you want, do your investigation, and it kind of feels like fun because I don't write a lot of gory stuff in my book, but it's kind of fun to have that vibe at the Crime Bake. We're also going to do headshots again this year, which I need a new one. So I'm getting my hair done at the end of the month, the week before Crime Bake, so that my hair will be nice. You won't see these grays. So that my new headshot is forthcoming, guys, because the old one is, what year are we in? It's almost, no, it's not 10 years old. Well, that would have been crazy. No, it was like 5 years old. 2019, 2018, whatever. It's still old because like pandemic happened. I gained a lot of weight, and also the hair has been 15 different colors since that shot. So we'll see what happens. We'll see a new headshot coming. So stay tuned for that. As always, you can find me on my website, NicoleAslanWriter.com. I have books for sale there. You cannot, I think right now you can't buy book 1 on Amazon unless it's a used copy. Book 2 is still up for some reason. I don't know. I'm not getting paid for it through Amazon because I'm still waiting for my old publisher to pay me for a couple of years. So just buy them for me. And if worse comes to worse and you're like, but I need an e-version, just reach out and we can talk and see what we can do. So other than that, I'm just gonna get ready here now and craft some stuff to be the MC tonight. The Patriots play at 1, so that's in about 40 minutes. So they're on a win streak. I mean, they only won one game, but it was against the Bills, so I'll take it. And then after that, I think I have another podcast scheduled towards the end of the month with returning guest Nanette Potter. And I'm still looking for more people. So come on. Even if you don't write and you just want to talk about books for. See, that's what I forgot to tell you about what I'm reading. See, I get behind. I'm thinking 2 things ahead. Ugh. So it is spooky season, right? And I should be reading spooky books. But the one I just finished last night is This Will Be Fun by E.B. Asher, which is 3 people who wrote it. I will call it a cozy fantasy. It starts with 4 people who went on a quest. 3 of them, after 10 years, they've all went their separate ways. One has, I won't spoil it, but there's a lot of heart in this about trying to reconnect with friends after grief. And there also is a little fighting, because why wouldn't there be? A little magic, and it's kind of irreverent fun. So this will be fun. This is a good one. At Crime Wave, I bought a book that looks really good for spooky season. I'm going to start reading, called A Fickle Tide by Mo Claire. Set in Maine, because that's where the thing was, and a whole lot of it's an island, it's winter, and I love that. And also, friend who I found on Thread /Instagram /Facebook, her debut mystery, Blaze Orange, Allison Keaton. I can't wait to get into this one too. Also a level bestie. She will be one of the debut authors at Crime Bake, so she'll get a huge shout out there, because that's my favorite thing to attend. Organized by Jules O'Brien. So on that note, that's all I got. And I would say go Red Sox, but the season's over. So instead we're going to say go Bruins, because they're 3-0, and that's exciting. And happy reading.